Hello, family. Welcome to Live Your Legacy. So, I wanted to start a little mini series. And basically, what I want to do is take the Kabbalion and explain it, break it down, and explain it in layman's terms. And for those of you who don't know what layman's terms means, it simply just means I'm gonna take the Kabbalion and simplify it and try to make it understandable for pretty much everybody. Okay, so the Kabbalion basically is a book of principles, teachings, Hermetic teachings, and basically it talks about the basic, the basic universal laws. And what universal laws are, it's like our laws in in reality, how we got, you can't kill, you can't steal, you can't, run red light. I mean, that is a law too, running red lights. These are laws that govern our planet, our country, really, not our planet. Well, there's laws everywhere, I'm sure. I haven't been everywhere on the planet, but pretty sure there's laws probably everywhere. But those are laws for the physical plane. But what I'm talking about are the laws that govern us spiritually. And our spiritual body is the biggest aspect of us. That is our being, so to speak. We're spirits with bodies, right? We're spirits with bodies, with brains, with emotions, with, all these things. But we are essentially spirit. So these laws that I'm talking about are what govern you by nature, so to speak. You don't, a lot of people don't even know, they're not even tapped into it. They don't know that it's even a thing. They're governed by it without being aware of it. We all are, but you are either aware of it or you're not aware of it, whatever. But so let's get into it. So, the Kabbalion starts by talking about the all, which is divine. And basically what it's saying is that divine is literally all things. Everything in existence is divine. And from that perspective, that knowledge, I can't even really say knowledge, because these are things that can't necessarily be proven. Like, well, they can in a scientific way. But anyways, my point being is divine is literally everything in existence. And for that to be true, then that means that you cannot add or take away from divine, because divine is literally everything, right? From the chair that you're sitting in to the car that you're driving, the food that you eat, like literally there's divine force in everything, because divine created everything. And essentially we are all from divine. And I say that loosely, that we're all from divine, because if you really want to get into it, there's species out here that are not from the mind of divine. But most of us are. If you're connected to my channel, you are more than likely from the mind of divine. So, but then it talks about the principle of mentalism. And the principle of mentalism basically talks about how everything in existence is mental. It all started as a thought. Everything that you're looking at, everything, it all started as a thought. From the house you live in, or apartment, whatever, car, shirt on your back, like everything literally started as a thought. And if you can't add or subtract from divine, then the only way that divine can create, unless there's another way of creating that none of us know about, the only way that divine could really create is mentally, because there's really only three ways to create, and that's mentally, physically, like with tangible materials, and procreating. And to create with tangible materials is impossible because divine is literally everything. So what would he build with without taking from himself, right? So we know that that can't be a way that divine creates. Procreating, well, we know that that's not an option, because if divine is literally the all everything, then there's nothing or no one in existence that is equal to him. So who would he procreate with? There's nobody. So that's out of the question. So literally the only way that divine could create is mentally. Again, unless there's another way to create that man just doesn't know about. And I mean, that is always a possibility, because we have only a limited capacity as far as understanding. So, I mean, that is a possibility, but it makes much more sense that divine creates mentally. And if divine creates mentally, and we are a product of divine creation, right? We are essentially a thought of divine, right? So if we are a thought of divine, then that means that our thoughts are connected to his thoughts, correct? And if our thoughts are connected to his thoughts, then we create what we think, thus making everything in existence mental. It all starts as a thought. You say you want to invent, we'll say you want to invent a chair. Granted, we know chairs have already been invented, but let's just use that as an example. You want to create a chair. It started as that thought, that something sparked a desire in you to create a chair, but it was a thought. It started as a thought. And then, so what you do is it starts as a thought, but then you have to get into alignment with that thought to make it manifest in physical reality, right? But that's a different principle. We'll talk about that later. I just want you guys to understand how everything is literally mental. So your mental body is very important. It is super crucial in the process of creating, because that's where it starts, right? So having, I don't want to say control over your mental body, because you cannot control energy. You can't. You can manipulate it, though, to make it do what you want it to do. And that takes training and mastery, but you can get there. You can get there, and being aware of it, of how things work, is the first step, right? It's the key. All right, let's move on though. So let's move on to the principle of correspondence. So basically what the principle of correspondence is I know many of you have heard the term as above, so below. Well, that's the principle of correspondence basically, and it goes back to what I just talked about, how you have a thought, and then you have to get yourself into alignment to make it manifest into reality. Well, so the law of course, or principle of correspondence, principle, it's the same thing. Basically what that's saying is that, so it's happened above already. It's, the thought is there. And so because the thought has been created, that thing essentially has already been created in the spiritual realm. It's just now time for you to get into alignment to manifest it into the physical realm. But if it's already been created in the spiritual realm, it's there already. It just has to get here. And if it's there, it's got to come here because that's how these laws work. So there's this thing called antimatter. I'm sure many of you are somewhat familiar with it. And basically it's like, okay, if you have something, then that something had to come from nothing. So you cannot have nothing without something, or something without nothing. They go hand in hand, and all these principles, it's all going to tie in together. Just be patient. Okay. But the principle of correspondence is really that tie between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. And understanding this principle is a key part in manifesting. So, but let's move on. I don't want to take a whole lot of time on each principle, but I think I'm going to do maybe one more. We're going to cut it here and we'll pick back up next episode, okay? So let's move to the principle of vibration. Principle of vibration, basically everything in existence has a vibration, whether it be low frequency, high frequency. Divine is the highest frequency in all of existence. Okay, and then you have anti-divine, the enemy, the devil, whatever the hell you want to call it, who was the opposite, so to speak. He's the low frequency. But everything in existence has a vibration. If it's got a God force, life force, and it does, if it's here, it's got a vibration, however small or big it is. And that's going to make more sense when I get into another one of the principles, which is the principle of rhythm. Those things kind of obviously go hand in hand, but I don't want to spend too much more time on this episode. So I hope that what I just said made some sense to you. If you have any questions, of course, y'all know, feel free, holla at me, let me know what's up, and I will do the best I can to answer your questions. Okay. All right, I love y'all. Peace.